So now let's move into the second go around of the solo where we start to spice things up a little bit. And what I mean by that is we're adding more notes, more phrases, and kind of building it as we make our way through the progression. So the next lick that you hear is this. Okay, that's all over the A7 chord, so let's talk about that just a little bit. This is Chuck Berry flavored, right? But again, it's Clapton, it's Page, it's Stevie Ray Vaughan, it's everybody, right? So let me just play it nice and slow for you with the tab up on the screen, and then I'll talk about that repeat phrasing that I just mentioned a few minutes ago. Okay, so let's break that down. Full step bend on the G string, barring once again the B string and the E string at the 5th fret. 8th fret on the B string, back to 5. You can do that with your pinky or your ring finger. Either way is fine. Then 5 on the B string, 7 on the G string, and back to 5 on the B string. Now what we've got is a full step bend at the 7th fret on the G string. Release it, flick off, pull off quickly to the 5th fret. And then 7th on the D string. Back to 5 on the G string, and then 7 on the D string, 7 on the A string, 5 on the D string, and 7 on the D string. I know you can see that on the tab, but just kind of taking you through it verbally as well. Now, we're going to repeat that phrase again, basically, like I mentioned earlier, but I'm adding a couple of notes in front of it and then changing it up slightly at the end and then traveling from there, adding something to it at the tail end. And that's a really cool idea. Play the lick once, as I said before, play it again, and change it up a little bit. So the second time around, it's played like this. Leading into the next chord, the D9, okay? And once again, that's that chord scale idea. But based on the A7 chord instead of the D9. So let me play that whole phrase nice and slow for you. And as I say, that leads us right into the D9 chord, right? And once again, we're doing that repeat the phrase idea. So I repeated the phrase, but I repeated it in a different place on the fretboard. And that gives it a different sound. I'm playing it across the G and the B string instead of the B and the E string. It's brighter down here. And a little bit darker here. And then I add a few notes once again to it at the end to spice it up. Again, repeating a phrase an octave away like I mentioned with Jeff Beck earlier. And when we get to this part of the phrase, right there, we're back on the A7 chord. So let me play that whole thing for you nice and slow. I know you can see the tab on the screen, but let's go through it slowly. So we once again find ourselves at the E9 in the chord progression, moving to the D9 and back into another turnaround. And what we're playing here is a little chromatic line. Once again, playing inside the chord. So it's based on those chord scales again. A little chromaticism is always nice to get into your playing. So let me play that nice and slow for you, the whole phrase. And again, this phrase traverses across the E9 to the D9. So it's got that cool little turnaround at the very end, okay? So let me play just what's on the E9 to the D9, if that makes sense. And then we find our way to the A7 chord and the turnaround. Now the turnaround is based on pretty standard stuff. The first turnaround we played was a descending one. And now we're playing the ascending one. Back to the third of that E7 chord. I don't want to get lost in the theory here. Let's just keep it pretty simple and straight ahead. But the turnaround is... So all of this is based on that A7 chord. Once again, chord scales. And that part right there is the E7, the 5 chord again. Again, just playing off of the third of the chord. And again, I don't want to bury you in theory or anything like that, but it's nice to know where this stuff comes from so that you can incorporate it into your own playing.